I am sorry. I am not at this place to dwell. I arrived here just to depart. I am a well-stocked peddler. I sell to all those who will buy from my mouth. I am not here on earth for strife. Love is the mission of my life. Hearts are the home of the loved one. I came here to build each true heart. My madness is love for the friend. Lovers know what my hopes portend. For me, duality must end. God and I mustn't live apart. Esteemed colleagues and distinguished guests, good afternoon. I am sorry for the for the retard. Uh, just I met with an Indian friend. He kept me talking, so I couldn't break his discussion. So I excuse again. Today, I would like to talk about Yunus Emre. He's very important poet and personage in our history for Turkish language and for the history of mysticism or Islam that we live in Turkey today. We knew really a few about his life, his biography. Only some legendary stories that we know. But firstly, I want to explain you our relations. I mean, the Turks and the Turkey of today. We can say Anatolia. As you know, originally, the Turkish people was living in Inner Asia and not in Anatolia. For example, we can say before 1,000, 2,000 years ago, we were not in Anatolia or in Turkey today. The Turkish people began because of some uh, problems with the other Turkish clans, we can say. They began to migrate firstly to Iran today, Persia at that time, and then to Anatolia. We began to enter earlier 1000 after Christ, of course. And then the Turkish migrants, Turkish people began to migrate and install in Anatolia. At that time, it was under Byzantine Empire. We can say Eastern Roman Empire at that time. Of course, there were some fights or wars between Byzantines and new Turkish communities. But at the end, with the dialogue, they create a unique community, we can say, tolerant on religion, on thoughts. So they could create a unity in Anatolia. It is very important. And of course, it is thanks to Turkish mystics, this tolerance and this, we can say, with dialogue to live together, all thanks to Turkish mystics and their philosophy helped a lot to create that community. Now, after this backdrop, historical backdrop, I will explain what we know about Yunus Emre's life. Firstly, in those years of Mongol invasions and pillaging, internal strife and conflicts, political authority weakness, and the hardships of famine and drought, people were left in a state of distress. Amid the prevailing uncertainty and anxiety of the late 13th century, individuals, in their typical response to stress, became acutely aware of the transient and mysterious nature of human existence. The early 13th century Mongol invasions brought a notable influx of refugees from the east to Konya and central Anatolia. Against this tumultuous backdrop, Yunus Emre lived a humble life in the village of Sarıköy, on the northern side of Sivrihisar. Today we can say central eastern part of Anatolia, where he was born and he lived. During a period of famine, when no produce could be obtained from his crops, Yunus heard of the beautiful qualities of Hacı Bektaş Veli. Hacı Bektaş Veli is another mystic, famous mystic of Anatolia. And Yunus Emre at that time, he was just a simple farmer. That year, he heard that Hacı Bektaş Veli and his disciples helped people, giving them wheat and the other foods they need. Yunus Emre decided to go next to him for helping, for asking help and some wheat for his family. At that time, Hacı Bektaş Veli proposed him, instead of wheat, I can give you some blessings. Yunus Emre said, my family is hungry, my children is very poor, and we couldn't harvest anything this year. So I don't need the blessing, but I want wheat. Hacı Bektaş Veli, after he asks, I will give him 10 blessings, 10 breath again, for each grain of wheat. Yunus Emre, again, he says, I don't need wheat, I don't need blessings, we are hungry, so please give us wheat. And then Hacı Bektaş Veli says, okay, give him what he needs. And he takes the wheat. By going in his journey, thank you, in his journey, he thinks that it was not good maybe what I did, because these are the big mystical persons, big saints, and if they propose something, it should be helpful. I should have accepted what he proposed. So he returns back. He says, I am sorry, I changed my idea, and please give me the blessings. I don't want wheat now. But Hacı Bektaş Veli, he says, unfortunately, time is up. What he says exactly, it is not possible now. We have given the key to that lock to Tapduk Emre. Let him obtain his share from there. Tapduk Emre is another mystic. Some says that he is a disciple of Hacı Bektaş Veli also, Tapduk Emre. And Yunus Emre, very sad, because he couldn't take his blessings. So he returns back to his home and began to research Tapduk Emre. Where is he? Who is this person? At last he finds Tapduk Emre, a big saint also at that time. He says the story, what happened with Hacı Bektaş Veli and Tapduk Emre, like Tapduk Baba we can say. In India you are familiar with the name Baba, the mystics, right? Tapduk Baba, he says, okay, come to my lodge and serve for the dervish here, for my disciples. They say Yunus Emre was appointed for the carry the woods for the lodge. They say during 40 years, he brought from the forest the woods for fire. And one day, they realized that every time when he brings the woods, they are all straight, not crooked woods he was bringing to lodge, dervish lodge, we can say. We say tekke normally in Turkish. One people asks him, why you bring always the straight woods to this tekke? It has been 40 years You are bringing wood every day, and all of them are straight, not crooked or all of them straight, very fine, well cut. And he says, this lodge is very sacred. I, even the wood is not straight, cannot enter to this lodge. So he serves very with big loyalty to this lodge and to his sheikh. But at the end he thinks he is not developing in spiritual way. So where is this blessing that I am looking for? Now it has been 40 years, I am working, I bring the wood, but nothing changed in my spiritual life. So he leaves the tekke lodge and goes to join to other dervish groups, maybe to other dervish, and to travel to cast for the reality. The, with the magical art, he was looking for the reality. One day he meets with two other dervish, two other, we can say, babas on his road. Each one, the first day, one of them prays for God for having a meal, for having a table full of food, and after his prayer, the food arrives. Someone brings, or they find in their cave, maybe, a table full of food. And the second day, same thing. The second dervish, he prays, and after a while, they find a table full of food. The third day, it is now the turn of Yunus Emre. Yunus Emre, he is sure of him that he has not any blessing, he has not any spiritual development in his inner life. So he is afraid of to pray, because as a dervish he will pray but nothing will come as a food, nothing will appear. So he prays, he is very disappointed, of course. He prays, "Oh Lord, don't disgrace me. Whatever they pray for, let it not bring shame upon me in their eyes." That night, two tables filled with food appeared. When asked whose honor he invoked in his prayer, Yunus replied, "You first," because he didn't pray for the honor of anyone. So you first. They said, "We pray in honor of the servant who has served at the door of Tapduk Emre for 40 years. And hearing this, Yunus immediately turned back. He regretted, of course, to leave Tapduk's lodge and sought refuge again in the lodge of Tapduk Emre, because he understood that, in fact, these 40 years was a very big development, very big step for him, for his spiritual life. So he decided to return back to his earlier lodge. Of course, it is a problem. You left once your lodge and you want to come back. We don't know if Tapduk Emre will accept you again because you left. He is very anxious, of course, and asks first to the wife of Tapduk Emre, "What should I do? Because I left here, it is my guilty. I am guilty. It is my error, we can say." Tapduk Emre, of course, at that time, very old age. He can't see very well, kind of blindish person. He is very old. The mother, we say mother Ana, Tapduk Ana, she proposed him. She says, "Lay down at the door of Tapduk. When he wakes up the morning for ablution, he will go out, and he will understand that there is someone laying down at the door. And he will ask, 'Who is he?' And you will say, 'Yunus,' or I will say, 'It is Yunus.' If he asks, 'Which Yunus?' And it means that he forgot you. He will refuse you. But if he says other thing, we will see. And Yunus Emre does as the mother, as Tapduk Ana, the wife of Tapduk Emre, explained. He lays down at the doorstep. Tapduk Emre, when he goes out from his room, he says, "Who is laying down here?" His wife says, "He is Yunus." And he says, Is it our Yunus?" So they understand that Tapduk Emre, his sheikh, accepts Yunus still, and he loves him again. Yunus continued to serve in the lodge. And one day, okay, apparently he has some kind of spiritual development in his life, but still he is not a poet as we know today. And the story says one day Tapduk Emre tells a disciple of him. His name is also Yusuf Guyende. Guyende means the teller. So maybe he was famous also with his poems. And that day Tapduk Emre asks him, "Yunus, tells us some. We are in the trance. Now we want to hear some divine poetry. So tells us the poetry." But that Yunus, he doesn't hear, he is also maybe in trance, he doesn't care what the other says, he doesn't reply. Once, twice, it's the same thing. At the end, Tapduk Emre turns to Yunus Emre, our poet, and he says, "Yunus, the time has come. We have unlocked the treasury of divine inspiration. Take your share and speak. Enrich this assembly with your discourse. The presence of the Sultan of existence is upon us." Then Yunus Emre began to read the poetry. And in fact, we say breath, for the mystical Turkish poetry. We don't say poetry, or we don't say normally ilahi. We say nefes, the breath. Of course, there is allusion. It is entre parentheses. I will tell you why we call that kind of divine poetries like nefes, breath. As you know, according to biblical story and also according to Quran, when God created the man, the Adam, his body, of course, was inanimate. So there was not life in it. He created it from the earth. And at the end, the seventh day, he breathed, blew his breath from his soul, God. And so the life began for the Adam. So it is breath, in fact. So whatever mystic says, it comes from that soil, from God, and he says with the same, we will say not soul, but breath, divine breath, who is telling the story. So that is why also at the same time we call it ilahi, the divine poems. And then Yunus Emre began to tell his story. Now we explained a little bit legendary biography of Yunus Emre, that all that we know about his life, but we have all his poems in our hands today. And from the centuries, imagine that he lived in 12th century, so now 8, 9 centuries, we are reading as Turkish people his poems. We are learning still, it illuminates our life, our daily life even. I want to look at a little bit his philosophy, what Yunus Emre says as a mystic, we can say as a philosopher. Even today, from behind those centuries, what does he say to us, to people of 21st century? As a Muslim mystic, We can summarize the philosophy expressed in Yunus Emre's poems as humility, service, and forgiveness in the first place, followed by recognizing the existence of God in all beings, adopting the concept of wahdat al-wujud, the unity of existence, then naturally regarding all religions and every nation equally. Last but not least, profound love for the creator and the created. These are the main points of Yunus Emre's philosophy. Toparlayamayacağız, şiir okuyacağız. Firstly, let's delve into Yunus Emre's interpretation of love in his lines. Now hear this, lovers, my friends. Love is a precious thing. It doesn't graze everyone. Love is a decorous thing. It makes ash heaps out of hills. Into hearts it blazes trails, turns sultans into vassals. Love is a courageous thing. The man struck by love's arrow first feels no pain nor sorrow, but then weeps and screams with woe. Love is a torturous thing. It makes the seas rage and boil, throws huge waves into turmoil, and makes rocks speak from the soil. Love is a vigorous thing. Mystic Yunus is helpless. No one feels for his distress. His feast is the friend's caress. Love is a delicious thing. At its core, love is a familiar emotion we have all experienced at some point in our lives. However, through the mystic's inner discipline and mystical training, love transforms into a divine force. This metamorphosis is achieved through self-control, humility, service, and forgiveness. In one of his poems, Yunus Emre outlines the ideal path that elevates us to a higher spiritual plane. Now you can listen more carefully. I am warned by the dervish way. You cannot become a dervish. Come, if you wish. What can I say? You cannot become a dervish. The dervish chest must be cut deep, his tearful eyes ready to weep. He must be as docile as sheep. You cannot become a dervish. So it means that it is not easy to be a dervish, and in that way, you should be very patient, with full forgiveness and docile, and it is not easy way. Başlaması gerekiyor. Okay. So we could talk about the manifestation of the divine, but we have many poems, but I will finish with his poem reflect a profound love for the creator and as a result, a deep affection for all forms of creation. Mystic is what they call me. Hate is my only enemy. I harbor a grudge against none. To me, the whole wide world is one. Last quatrain, okay. As we step away, let's carry Yunus Emre's wisdom in our hearts, fostering unity and compassion beyond our time. In his spirit, let's be ambassadors of love and harmony.